for heroes proved in liberating strife. Who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. America, America, may God thy gold refine, till all success be nobleness and every gain divine. When I was in school, you know, we used to sing it something like this. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties, above the fruited plain. Look here, I'm talking about America, sweet America. You know, God done shed his grace on thee. He crowned thy good, saving brotherhood from sea to shining sea. America, I love you, America, because my God done shed his grace on thee, and you ought to love him for it, because he crowned thy good. He told me he would, saving brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, Lord, oh, Lord, thank you, Jesus. Shining sea.
We did it, y'all.
The first lesson that black people had to navigate in this country was that voting is dangerous. Voting is going to be met with violent resistance, particularly in regions where there are enough black people to actually have impacts on outcomes.
Brian Stevenson is the founder of the Equal Justice Initiative, which created the National Memorial.
Throughout that 100-year history, between the end of Reconstruction and the Civil Rights Movement, the inability to vote is what shaped black life.
The memorial is informally known as the National Lynching Museum, and it's filled with thousands of names of black Americans, many of them killed amid the push for voting rights.
the violence that takes place, the trauma that takes place, the lynching that takes place, the mass migration of black people from the Deep South to the North and the West that takes place, which will also have political implications, is all a result of this violent opposition to allowing black people to vote.
The violence was combined with other things: poll taxes, literacy tests, grandfather clauses, to prevent black people from voting in the Jim Crow South. The long struggle came to a head in 1965 with the march from Selma to Montgomery, which the future Congressman John Lewis helped organize.
We're marching today to dramatize to the nation, dramatize to the world, that hundreds and thousands of Negro citizens denied the right to vote.
You are ordered to disperse. That march will not continue.
It became known as Bloody Sunday. The violence was broadcast into living rooms across the country, arousing the national conscience in the same way that images of George Floyd's death would 55 years later. Within months, it led to the signing of the Voting Rights Act. The law barred voting discrimination and originally targeted 7 southern states that had a pattern of disenfranchisement. It required them to get federal approval for any voting law changes. That provision was called Section 5.
It says that any time the laws were changed that dealing with voting, they had to first be submitted to the Attorney General of the United States or submitted to a 3-judge district court in Washington, D.C. So Section 5 was a very powerful tool to keep those in power from suppressing the right to vote.
Hank Sanders was elected state senator in Alabama thanks to the Voting Rights Act.
All of a sudden, the possibility of inclusion began to just grow. And it took many years, though, before you had a substantial amount of African Americans elected to office.
Within a year of its passage, 250,000 African Americans had registered to vote. By 1968, 385 black people had been elected to office across the South. By 1985, that number would grow to nearly 4,000. But by then, there was also a growing backlash that would give rise to new challenges and place new obstacles in front of black voters.
When you don't want somebody to vote, you create various kinds of things. Now we'd come with the 1965 Voting Rights Act. They couldn't deny it outright, so you find ways to try to suppress it.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Antonio Williams. I served 14 years and 2 weeks in the Minnesota Department of Corrections. I have been home 2.5 years. Every election cycle, I have worked on a campaign. I have worked on Mary Moriarty's campaign. I have worked on Keith Ellison's campaign. I have worked on Robin Wansley's campaign and more and more. And I have also led voter engagement, voter turnout initiatives. I have been welcomed back into community by community, but I'm not welcomed back into my community fully by my state, by my country, because I am not fully included in our democracy. What I know about inclusion is that it restores more than just the power to choose representation. It restores dignity, it restores hope. Without full participation in our democracy, we are seeing people who say, this isn't mine, so why should I care? Why do I have an interest in being a productive member of society if I have to pay taxes but I can't choose my representation? And so what this bill does is it restores hope, it restores dignity, and it says I have a community who recognizes my worth and my value, and that when I'm better, my community is better, and my community sees that. I urge everyone here to support this, because it is not about just voting. It is about making sure that we are full and we are whole again. Thank you.
I'm Willie Lord. Good morning, Chairman and distinguished members of the committee. I am honored to have the opportunity to talk to you about HF 28 and how the absence of such a bill has adversely impacted my life. I sit here before you as someone who has been formerly impacted by the criminal justice system. But in spite of that, I've been an American my whole life. And just like some of you, I'm a spouse, a husband, a proud father of a 14-year-old daughter. And like some of you, I'm a businessman, a homeowner, a mentor, philanthropist, and I just so happen to be fortunate to work in the most noblest profession, and that is of a teacher. I've been teaching now for over 12 years. Over 5,000 students have came through my classroom. I am a leader in my community. But unlike you, I don't have a voice. Unlike you, I've been made to feel like a second-class American because I can't vote. I humbly request and ask that you bring your full weight and might behind HF 28. Because as we all know, in America, there's nothing more un-American than taxation without representation. Thank you.
Morning. My name is Shane Price. People call me Brother Shane Price. I represent the Power of People Leadership Institute. We do three things. We do prevention for girls and boys. We do intervention for men. I work in the intervention area. I have been teaching and training in Minnesota State Correctional Facilities for over 18 years. I have one of the strongest records of success that there is. Some of my successful students are in this room right now. I think that the work that we do has helped promote safety in the state of Minnesota. But something about this bill that I support has been working me in a way I couldn't understand. I attended a community meeting at Sabathani Community Center. Some of the representatives were at that meeting and talked about supporting the bill, but later had a change of heart. So I'm used to speaking to, in my work, police, corrections officers, lawyers. I'm used to straight talk. We don't have to totally agree on everything, but we do have to talk straight, and I like that. But this particular committee member elected to change his vote, which is his right when it got to voting time. And this is what he said. He said, I can't forget about the victims. And all the bells in me went off, because that is what has been working me about this particular bill. Because those victims who tried to vote many years ago but couldn't, were hung and maimed and brutalized. This is an opportunity to rectify, to restore, means to go back and fix it, to restore not just the rights of those individuals who are here today, not just the rights of those who have the privilege of voting in the future, but to go back and rectify, to restore some of the wrong that has been done in the past. This is why this bill is so powerful to me. And this is why I think Minnesota has the opportunity to be on the right side of history. I would respectfully ask you to support this bill, and thank you so much for your time this morning.
I'm hoping that these celebrations will become moments that we look back on as these wonderful opportunities to be able to move some change in our communities now.
And so within literally months of getting out, door knocking, trying to convince people to use their power to vote, trying to convince them to use electoral power, the power of the ballot, and yet I couldn't vote. And so year in after year in after year in, I stayed engaged in politics, and yet I could never hold that little red sticker that said I voted. I could never do it until now.
Let's start with the assassination of President Lincoln, leading to the Andrew Johnson presidency. Johnson, a firm believer in state rights, allowed states post-Civil War to reestablish their own governments. Southern states, free from restraint, drafted their own laws that actively targeted the rights and freedoms of African Americans. To combat these oppressive laws, Congress passed the 14th and 15th Amendments. Now former slaves were granted citizenship, and states were prohibited from denying voting rights based on race, color, or previous condition of servitude. But the states simply worked around the amendments with new suppression tactics, ushering in the era of the Jim Crow laws. Poll taxes, literacy tests, legalized segregation. These state and local laws not only suppressed the vote, they made daily life for African Americans dangerous. The price for resistance was fierce. Meanwhile, on the federal level, the 19th Amendment extended voting rights to women, sort of, because Jim Crow laws still practically denied African American women the right to vote. Almost a century after the birth of Jim Crow laws, finally, a victory, with the passing of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. A year later, the Supreme Court bans the poll tax. The era of Jim Crow is dead, but the era of black voter suppression is not. In 2012, black voter turnout rate exceeded white voter turnout for the first time in U.S. history, leading to the re-election of President Obama.
We are an American family, and we rise or fall together as one nation and as one people.
But only a year later, the Supreme Court decided to overturn a key aspect of the Voting Rights Act. Some states no longer need federal approval to change their election laws. A few short years later, we're living in a new but familiar world of threats to voters' rights. These tactics can make people feel their vote doesn't matter. But history teaches us not just about these challenges, but how we overcame them. And why we have an obligation to fulfill the rights that others fought so hard to enable and protect.
POP put together that video, and if you watched it, you know that Wayne was really trying to help us think about the history, the breadth and the width of the oppression that people exercise to try to keep us, from voting. And so I just want to give Wayne a big round of applause, if you don't mind. Reverend Hunter, my friend, and the two Mikes are back there, Northsiders, who I grew up with. Throw your hands up right there. Give my friends a hand for always supporting them. Them guys mean something to me. We're right from this neighborhood, and when I am attempting something, I feel uncomfortable, Johnny, if you ain't somewhere close by. Mike Talley and Mike, when y'all are close by me, I feel encouraged to go ahead and do what I got to do. Does that make sense to you? Give my Northside friends a little hand. We're grateful that we are allowed to represent this notion of the restoration of civil rights. Many of us did not or do not have the right to vote, or I should say did not. If you did not have the right until the bill was passed, raise your hand just so we can see each other. Look around the room and watch this. Give yourself a hand now and watch this. Some people who had the right didn't take it, which is almost as bad as not having the right in the first place. I wanna just take a minute for those sons of mine who have just come home from prison just recently. I'm not gonna call out names, but we spent years together inside the prison, and that we have time to spend together on the outside is meaningful to me. And I want you to give my returnees a big round of applause. I used to have just state guys, but now through Eric Washington and other things, the federal guys are beginning to come my way. If you're a federal guy, raise your hand. Just don't be ashamed of it. There go my federal guys right there. Give them a hand. Welcome home. Somebody say welcome home. Yes. I want to read to you really quickly. I'd like for you to read with me. You have this document sitting in your chair. This is the state of Minnesota's proclamation on October the 28th, 2022. I want you to read this with me. I'll read and you give me the whereas. Tell me when you got it. Say, I got it. I can't hear you though. Okay. The reason why I'm doing this and taking time to do this, my friend Brian has just came in, Brian Taylor. That's another North Side. I just want to give him it up to. I see you, son. I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Watch this now. It says, say whereas. Say it louder than that. Whereas on October the 28th, 2022, the Power of People Leadership Institute's Restoration of Civil Rights Day for ex-offenders in Minnesota, and the United States has some of the highest recidivism rates in the world and one of the highest prison populations in any country. And I need you to be louder. In Minnesota, nearly 40% of people who are released from prison are reconvicted of a new felony within 3 years after release. And the Power of People Leadership Institute, my God, was founded in 2007, and its replanting program has impacted over 6,000 people, and that's a low number. The replanting program provides people returning home from incarceration with mentorship, support group meetings, personal development, leadership training, health resources, housing resources, and employment resources to successfully navigate the reentry transition process, and showing them that a life without crime is possible. And the 1 year individual cost of incarceration, this I want you to really hear, in Minnesota is around $50,000. This year, 62 of the 64 members of the replanting program have stayed out of prison, saving the state of Minnesota up to $3.04 million. And Restoration of Civil Rights Day brings home to and celebrate those who have done the hard work, say hard work, to fully restore their rights and replanted themselves as positive leaders, contributing citizens, and taxpayers who are giving back to their families, communities, and society. Now, therefore, I, Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, do hereby proclaim Friday, October the 28th, 2022, as Restoration of Civil Rights Day, signed by our governor, Tim Walz. Give him a hand. Now, it's interesting, son, that's good. That's my son Cornelius right there. Say, hey, Cornelius. Hey, Cornelius. Yeah, you need that. You know, Cornelius got to get his propers, you know. But watch this, what I want to share with you. I don't know if you had a chance to have the dinner, but we have the best caterer of all times. Would you give her a... Raise your hand there, sister. If you have an event coming up, make sure you contact her. She's a pop partner in this thing. But what I want to say to you is that Tim Walz, because he's involved, we in Minnesota have a unique kind of proposition going on today, where our governor is actually a candidate for another office. And should that happen, I have the president of the Senate of the state of Minnesota President Bobby Joe Champion, who will be here at about 7 o'clock to help us understand what that means for the state of Minnesota so that you know exactly what's taking place. And let me say this to you before I let my wife share. It's important for each and every one of us to vote on this time. Say, we got to stand up right now. We got to vote right now. So I'm going to stand up right now. I'm going to cast my vote right now. Yeah, I'm going to stand up right now. I'm going to cast that vote right now. Give yourself a hand. Come on now. I'd like my wife to share with you just for a little bit, and then we're going to introduce our friend Sam from the League of Women Voters. The League of Women Voters represent for us something important. Let me just share, just briefly, I won't go on. But the League of Women Voters always kept voting at a high level. That's the women, say the women. When the men were clowning, the league was clear about the integrity of voting. Let me just historically speaking, African American men had the right to vote before white women in America. This is how deeply voting was suppressed, and it wasn't until 1922 that white women got the right to vote. And it was Frederick Douglass who was their key spokesperson. I'll wait for all the amens to die down. But when my wife is finished, we're going to bring Sam. Sam is from the League of Women Voters, and there are others here representing the league. Give the league a big hand. I could swear my son already had a plate, but that's another story. You all, would you mind giving my wife a big hand, Dr. Verna Cornelia Price?
Thank you. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I am so glad you're all here. We're here for a couple of reasons. First of all, just to celebrate our men and women who have come home and have been replanted, and they are doing amazing work in our community. And if you're a pop woman or a pop guy, would you please stand up? I'll say 1, 2, 3 and stand up. 1, 2, 3, go. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you so, so very much. The second reason we are here is because a lot of people worked very hard to restore the right to vote and give you the right to vote. And it was a 20-year journey. Interestingly, my husband and I co-founded The Power of People, which is based on my first book, The Power of People, 4 kinds of people who can change your life. And for those of you who have worked with us, you know those 4 kinds of people are adders. Say it with me. Subtractors, multipliers, and dividers. And our goal in life is that you are an adder and a multiplier. Yes. Now let me break that down to how that relates to your voting. When you vote, you multiply those things in your community that needs to be addressed so that you can have a better life. You become a multiplier when you get that red sticker and you vote. Yeah. Look at your neighbor and say, isn't it time to be a multiplier? So we are here to tell you, community, to vote. That's what we're doing. We cannot tell you how to vote, and we're out of line if we do. But we can certainly tell you that we have fought hard to get you this right, and we fully expect you to do your part. Now, we love you, we appreciate you, but do not complain one moment if you do not take yourself to the poll and make your voice known. When something comes down, you don't get to say nothing. Right. Unless you have voted. Yeah. So I just want you to make a commitment tonight, because guess what? Everyone in here over 18 here can vote.
That's right.
There's no more excuses. Look at the person next to you and say, no more excuses.
No excuses.
Right?
No pain.
Now let's make a commitment here tonight. Please repeat after me. I commit
I commit
to be a multiplier
to be a multiplier
in my community
my community
by casting my vote.
by casting my vote.
Thank you all so
Give
much.
yourself
And
a
with
big round of
that,
applause.
we welcome Sam to tell you what to do. Thank you, Sam.
Give Sam some love.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sam. I am with the League of Women Voters, and this is a great crowd. Thank you for having me, and I'm just going to give a brief presentation, an overview to make sure you know, because in only 1 week, the presidential election will take place. But as you know, there is much more than that on the ballot. So we are here to just make sure you have everything you need to know to vote. And we'll go to the next slide. So, yeah, to be eligible to vote in Minnesota, as we talked about, you're over 18, you're not currently incarcerated, you are not ordered by a court to not be able to vote. So basically, if you're here right now and over 18, you're able to vote. And yeah, I know you all have been residents of Minnesota for 20 days prior to November 5th. Next slide, please. So in order to register to vote, we passed the deadline to pre-register, but you can still register on election day. Your polling place is based on where you live, and I'll show you how you can find that. But when you go to vote, you can bring your ID. If your ID has your current address on it, that's all you need to register. If you don't have your current address on your ID, bring something that is dated within 30 days of the election, such as an internet bill or a heating bill, or you can bring your lease agreement that is dated past November 5th. And finally, if you do not have either of those things, but you know a neighbor who is registered to vote in your precinct, they can come with you and vouch for you as being living at that residence. And also, if you live in a residential facility, staff of that residential facility can vouch for as many people as they want. All right, next slide. So this is just how you find your poll finder. It's pretty simple. Just go on. You can go to mnvotes.gov, or you can type in this address URL directly, and you enter in your zip code, and it'll tell you where you need to go. So this is if you vote on November 5th. And again, the polls are open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And I'll get into some of the rights you have as a voter as well. Next slide, please. So if you want to know who's going to be on your ballot, you can check out there. We have some sample ballots if you live around this area, Ward 5. But you can also just find that out online. And you can print off the ballot and bring it in with you if you wanted to do the research at home, and then bring it in with you if you don't, if you want to be prepared when you go in to vote. Next slide, please. So these are the candidates, or these are the races on the ballot for Ward 5 this year. So it's a plethora of them, and if you live elsewhere, there might be also a mayor or a county commissioner, and we all know how important those are to determine the funding and the levels of concern that our communities get when we're represented. Next slide, please. We have a website you can go to, as well as candidate forums to research the candidates. So if you go to vote411.org, enter your address, it'll tell you who's on your ballot and if they've answered the questions that we sent to them. If not, we also have their campaign website, and we also have the candidate forums that the ladies out there ran with the Minneapolis League. We also have our St. Paul candidate forums, and you can be able to watch those videos if you have a bit more time and not sure who you're going to vote for yet. Next slide, please. Again, next slide. And this is just the URL to find the candidate forums. Next slide, please. All right, so on election day, what do you need to do? What do you need to bring with you to vote? We mentioned if you are not registered, and if you haven't voted in the 2020 presidential election or sooner, you will need to re-register. So if this was your first time voting, or if you didn't vote in 2020, you will need to bring the documents with you to register to vote. If you already registered, if you voted in 2022, you don't need to bring an ID with you. You just need to sign your name when you get there, and it's probably the same location that you voted in if you haven't moved. And you can also bring somebody with you to the polls, and they can assist you in any questions you have. Like if somebody you know doesn't speak English very well, they could be there to translate for you. And also, if you just want to bring children with you, they can come with you as well. Next slide, please. All right, so these are some of the rights you have, again, as a voter. You can bring children with you. You can ask for help from an election judge as long as you're in line by 8 p.m. And so, yeah, also the top one, you have the right to take off time from work without losing pay or having to take any time off. Just give your employer probably notice tomorrow and tell them you're going to vote on November 5th. And also the next few slides will talk about other ways you can vote before November 5th. Next slide, please. All right. Again, this is, if you're not familiar, we have a voting booth out there, but you have to completely fill in the ballot. You don't have to vote for every race. You can leave races blank if you don't want to vote for president and you want to vote for the state rep. You can just do that, or you can not vote for any of the people on the back. Obviously, we recommend filling it out as thoroughly as possible, but if you really just don't feel strongly about one of the races, you can leave it blank. It won't count against your ballot. Next slide, please. And then this is what it'll look like. You'll enter it into the machine. It'll tell you if it was accepted, if it was able to be read right away, so you'll know if you did it correctly, and then you'll grab a sticker. Next slide. Next slide, please. All right, so if you live in this area, you can vote tomorrow. You can vote Sunday. You just go to the Urban League, which is, I'm not sure how close to here, but I think it's somewhat near. And these are some of the hours that they're open. It's the same thing as if you were voting on November 5th. If you need to register, just bring in those documents. Or if you're already registered, you will be able to just sign in and get essentially, it's called an absentee ballot, but it'll be the same thing. You get the ballot and then you enter it into the machine. So you can vote today, or you could have voted today, but you can vote tomorrow. It's the same as November 5th, but you can only do it at certain locations. So next slide. And this is another location where you can vote early. If you just want to get it done, if you know you're not going to be available on November 5th, you can do that. So these are those locations. Next slide. And if you live in St. Paul, you can early vote as well. I think I'm going to go to the library on Wednesday, and you can also vote at the elections office. Next slide, please. And we have more information on our website. And next slide. And then I have to shout out the Minnesota Voter Outreach Director, Melanie Hayslip. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. She works for the Secretary of State's office, and they've been working really hard to put together resources to make it easier for us to vote. If you have any questions, maybe you don't know how to look up your polling place, but you can text this number and they can do it for you. Or if for some reason you face issues at the polls, you can call this number and they will be able to help you out. So yeah, we will be outside and can answer any questions you have if you want to look up your polling location right now. And we won't be able to register you to vote, but we can just give you the information you need so you can do it tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Hey, Sam is a second-year man. He's been with us a couple years now. Give him a better hand than that. Thank you, Sam. We appreciate that. And the young sister from the Secretary of State, raise your hand. Where are you at? Give her, stand up right there. Give her a hand for coming by. The Secretary of State's office is aware of what we're doing here in the community. Give her a better hand than that for coming out. We're grateful. We're very grateful. While we're talking about voting, it's so important, it's so powerful, but we also want to celebrate, say celebrate, some of our pop guys, and you saw some of those pop guys who raised their hand, because not only are they released from prison, but they are now going above and beyond. Say above and beyond. Above and beyond. This side right here, say above. This side say beyond. Above. Beyond sound louder, come on. Say above and beyond. We got some guys who have gone above and beyond, not only being released from prison, but then coming out and excelling in so many ways, becoming leaders and powerful individuals in the community. We're going to quickly celebrate a few of them. One of those is going to receive his award posthumously because he is in Africa at this time. He's in Africa at this time and just got through, I'll call you, Will, just one second. He just got through receiving another award, but Eliza Darris, say Eliza Darris. Eliza served 18 years. He's a pop guy through and through. Say pop guy. Oh, that's too soft for me. On three, 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. Eliza is a pop guy. Served 18 years in the Minnesota State Correctional Facility, was our representative on the floor of the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, but not just that, has become one of the 10 electoral votes here in the state of Minnesota. He's currently with his family in Accra, Ghana. Give a big hand to Eliza Darris. And Willie Lloyd is going to accept his award. Come on, Will. Will is going to accept Eli's award. And look, Eli done wrote some words or something. Well, somebody done wrote them.
Well, okay. Well, I wrote down a few things that I knew he did, right? Accomplished. So in 2017, he was the African American, he was accepted as an African American Leadership Fellow. In 2022, he was accepted as an International Echoing Green Fellow, and he's the co-founder and board chair of the Legal Revolution. He's also policy chair of the Minnesota Black Chamber of Commerce, and he's been appointed by Governor Walz as a board member for the State Board of Public Defense.
That's a big thing. Give him a hand.
Yeah.
I thought Will was going to be up here for a long time. Didn't it seem like that? Give Will a big hand for Eliza. Eliza was a leader while he was in prison. I could see it all over his face. He was a pop guy through and through, became a student teacher, assisted men in making their transition while in prison. He's a leader outside, now traveling internationally. That's an amazing thing. Let me just say to you, just recently, my wife and I and our family, we just returned from Africa, and one of the pictures you saw on that slide was of the Castle El Amina. Say El Amina. Say it louder than that. Because it's scary. That's why you don't say it so loud, because it's kind of scary. You know I'm getting ready to tell you a scary story. And say El Amina. Well, 80%, Mike, 80% of all of us who traveled through the Middle Passages left from El Amina. And then I took my son Cornelius right here and my wife, and we went to El Amina, to the door of no return. Let me just tell you about it. And then the door is right up next to the Atlantic Ocean. And you could peer right out the door, and the ocean is right up on you, mighty. And Cornelius, for some reason, I don't know what it was, but that door intrigued him, and he kept on looking out that door. And I let him go, because, he's exploring. He went further out there, and he peeked further out there. Finally, he was almost outside that door. I said, boy, come on back in here. It was something about that door that called out to him, and I let him explore it for himself. My wife and I experienced, and all my daughters, we experienced El Amina. They locked us in the dungeon there at the castle. And while we were locked in, Spike, we could feel the spirit of our people. And I don't want you to feel bad about that on today. I just want you to understand that it happened. And just acknowledge that and recognize it. It makes you stronger as an individual when you recognize the trauma that somebody else has gone through, because here you are trying to get somebody to recognize your trauma. I'll wait for all the amens to die down. You could say louder than that to me. Thank you, sir. I just want to mention that one of my mentors, one of the greatest mentors I ever had, just walked in the room. And I asked him to come and speak a bit about the power of the vote. But more importantly than that, I wanted him to meet personally Pop Guy. Say Pop Guy. Pop Guy. Say it louder than that. Pop Guy. Pop Guy on 3, 1, 2, 3. Pop Guy. Thank you. If anything that I've done or shared with you while you were incarcerated, then you got to understand, Brother Turnipseed, he's who touched me. And he was going in before I went in. And he went in for about 15 or 20 straight years before I went in. And I didn't know that he was handing the thing off to me. I didn't know, Spike. But then once I got there and I realized that I was here for a reason, say a reason. I know the reason was partly because of Harry Spike Moss right here, who went with his heart and set free those individuals who were incarcerated through the false thinking in your own mind. I've had the opportunity now, and I'm in Stillwater every Saturday. I just left Stillwater on Saturday. And it's an amazing thing that is happening with POP inside the prisons. But tonight, I didn't get a chance to honor him the way I wanted to, because Spike just got a street named after him, Plymouth Avenue, where we grew up. Clap louder than that. See, the president of the Minnesota State Senate just walked in the door, Bobby Joe Champion. Give him a hand. What's important about him walking in is that he authored the bill that gave us the right to vote. Give him a better hand than that. Well, watch this. Spike, I just want you to come up here right with me for a minute. Spike, you know what? Spike used to take me horseback riding, man. I was scared to death of them horses, man. But I loved it. He's who took me out of the neighborhood. I was just a little north side guy right up here on Oliver, right here. Spike took myself and Marvin and others that are in this room right now to see a larger geographical location than just North Minneapolis. So if you're a pop guy right now, you're a pop guy, I want you to stand up. State and federal guys, I want you to stand up. Wait a minute, watch this, watch this. And then I want you to come up here, look, and shake my mentor's hand, and then I want you to salute him like this here, because he is the reason that I came to you. Keep it moving, keep moving. There you go, come on. A salute. Give him a salute. Pop guys, salute. Salute, that's Lee Vu, the guru right there. My sister Rhea, Steve Jennings. That's Crystal. Come on, brother, come on. Yeah. Come on now, we gotta keep it moving. Give him a salute, Tim. Look at the guys coming, I appreciate that. Come on, Henry. That's Tim Sorry right there. Salute him. And listen, hey, Lee Vu, if I touched you in any way, Derek Dukes, if I said anything that helped change your mind, I just want you to know it's because this guy right here first said it to me, right? And I'm so proud I didn't get a chance, Bobby Joe, to honor him this way, the way I wanted to during the renaming of the street from Plymouth Avenue to Spike Moss Way. Say Spike Moss Way. Yeah. Look at Duval, ain't he sharp? Yeah. Give Spike Moss a big hand. I'm gonna call you right back, Spike. Look, I really, can you give him a better hand than that? Say this with me, I am somebody. Yeah. Yeah, I see him, sweetie. Yeah. My wife is trying to call time on me, but see, I never knew that I was ever going to get this chance to honor my mentor. I run with Spike every day. You know, Spike took me to see James Brown, and I was right next. Here go James Brown, here go me. Spike took me. I'm gonna tell you one more thing about Spike, and then I'm gonna move on with the program. I'm sorry, I'm taking too long, I know that. But one time, Spike took us, Northsiders, to Milwaukee. We went on a bus, and we were going to meet a pastor down there named Father John Grappy. Father Grappy, you remember that? And so there was a bridge in the north side of Milwaukee, right off of Broadway, just like this here. And the police didn't want us to cross the bridge in Milwaukee. And so the police was lined up in the middle of the bridge with firepower and everything. I couldn't have been more than 13 or 14 years old. Man, I was so scared. But I'm going to tell you something. We started singing freedom songs. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Sing it right here with me. Oh, freedom. Oh, don't be afraid. Oh, freedom over me. Now we walking across the bridge now. Keep singing. I'll be a slave. I'll be. Look, I'm going to tell you something. I was waiting for a break in the action. We didn't have nothing, Bobby. We had nothing to fight with. We were just walking with our hearts. Spike right up in the front. Never showing no fear. I love that about him. I've never seen him crack like that. He stood right up there and walked right up to the police. And then right at the very last minute, I'm so grateful for this, the police broke and let us come through.
Seen that whooping coming?
Oh, man. Spike just said, I seen that whooping coming, I know. And my mom and them was asking me, where you going? I said, oh, no place, I'll be right back. Man, but I'm so grateful for Spike. And you know, you should be too. If you're grateful for anything that I've been able to do, my wife been able to do, you don't understand, but he touched me and I touched you and you got to touch somebody else. Am I talking good tonight? I said, am I talking good tonight? Watch this. Watch this. We have the president of the Minnesota State Senate. I want him to explain something to you. If you're looking at the agenda, I'm going out of order now. I'm on spirit now. And then look right here. He probably got elsewhere to be. So, you know, I got to pull him in. But look right here. Bobby Joe authored this bill. But Minnesota is unique this time, Justin. Because our governor, say the governor. Whatever you think about the governor, that's not tonight's issue. Candidates, we're not talking about candidates. I don't want to hear none of that mess tonight. We're just talking about voting. Say vote. Say it's my right to vote, and I'm going to take it. I love that. Watch this. And so we mess around, and should the election go one kind of way, things are going to change in the structure of the state of Minnesota. You feel what I'm saying? Things are going to change. I'm going to have the senator, the president of the Senate, come and explain what that is. Then we're going to acknowledge, we're going to let Spike have some time to get us rallied up. And then there's some men who are operating above and beyond. Say above. Say beyond. Look. What's this? What's this? Some of us are operating above and beyond as we have been released from incarceration, and we're going to celebrate you tonight. But before we get to that, give the President of the Senate a big round of applause.
As usual, you are awesome as usual. I love you more. Good evening, everyone. You know, when I came in, I saw Brother Shane doing what he does best, which is talking about history, but also giving honor where honor is due. That just shows what sort of character Brother Shane has. Would you be so kind as to give him another hand, because we love Brother Shane, and Dr. Verna Price as well. So, I am Senate President Bobby Joe Champion, but most importantly, I'm a Northsider. And I love being from North Minneapolis. And Spike has touched all of our lives. So, you know, if you know anything about Spike or anything about why Spike Moss Way was so important, you would even be even more excited. Because first of all, like the fire department, they came on that particular day and said we would not have black firefighters but for Spike Moss. Or the police department, Chief Arredondo came and said we wouldn't have black police officers and therefore couldn't be a chief without Spike Moss. We wouldn't have North Point, which used to be Pilot City, without Spike Moss. We wouldn't have Summit OIC, which used to be called a TCOIC, without Spike Moss. I can go on and on and on. There's nothing that his footprint isn't in. And so even in my life, I used to go to the Way. I went horseback riding too. Yes, sir. And loved it every step of the way. And we walked on college campuses in order for Spike to always say to us, see yourself on this campus, because I want to see you on a campus. And so that was important. And guess what? We had to have black history. You could not participate in any of the recreational activities if you didn't go to Black History class. So we could learn about who we are from Mahmoud El-Kati, the great Dr. Mahmoud El-Kati. So that's just that significant. And that fits right into what I'm saying. I know I see Shamika Bogan back there, my executive assistant to the president. She had to make sure that I got here, right? And so I'm so excited about her. But let me tell you why this is important. We are in one of the most consequential elections that's coming up. And I know people say that often, but it's true. You have a job that you have to do. The job that you have to do is go to the polls and vote. At one time, people could say, hey, if I'm a felon or if I'm on paper, I can't vote. Well, we don't have that problem anymore. You are now equipped with the ability to go to the polls and vote for president, for a city council, for school board, whatever it is. And the importance of voting is this, is because your vote is your voice. Think about that. Your vote is your voice. And I often remind folks that bad officials are elected when good people don't vote. We need you to go to the polls. Now, why? Because we have two people who are very clear that they're different. If you are excited and believe it's important for felons to have a right to vote, felons to have affordable housing, opportunity for training, if you also believe that education for your kids are important and housing for every individual and health care, the choice is different. Because guess what? On the other side of the ledger, I did not get any real, a whole lot of support from the other side. They didn't want felons to be able to vote. That's the truth. And or if you look at the Central Park 5, there's someone who was saying that they were guilty and took out a full-page ad, and even once it came back that they were not guilty, would never apologize. Character matters and one's ability to tell the truth. So you have a choice before you. But let me tell you selfishly, and I'm just saying this from my vantage point, of course I know who I'm supporting. If Walls Harris gets over the finish line and become president and vice president, as Shane Price said, we have some movement in the great state of Minnesota. What would that movement be? The current lieutenant governor, her name is Peggy Flanagan. She's already the first Native American person as high in office as she is now. If Walz and Harris gets over, Peggy Flanagan becomes the first Native American governor in our country. Think about that. And then, because of the succession plan, what happens by operation of law, she moves up to become governor, and then the Senate president becomes lieutenant governor. So that means I'll become lieutenant governor. So we can make history all around. And we can make sure that our country and our democracy is in good shape. Now, I don't usually like to say that I have a stake in this race, but I have a stake in this race. Not only do I have a stake in this race, you have a stake in this race. When you think about your future and what you want your future to be, there's a saying that says, if you're not at the table, then you're on the menu. And I believe that we've demonstrated with certainty that when we're sitting at the table, good things happen. And if I'm so blessed, and listen, I wasn't the only one. I carried the legislation from the Senate, but that guy right there, Representative Frazier, also carried it from the House. Can you give him a hand? Listen, it is so clear that we are making choices based on our future. And you want to make sure you get there, your family gets there, your friends get there, your neighbors get there, and they have to vote the right way. Because voting is one part of it, but making the right choice is the added part of it. So I want you to know how excited I am and how excited I am to see you all in this room. My heart is just dancing. I'm getting ready to go over to a Founders Day. I'm late for a dinner over there. But I said I had to come here in order to make sure that I could salute you and be here as Spike Moss was recognized as well. I want you to know that we are in this together and that it is important for you to do your part, because now we want our future to be bright. So thank you so very much, and I appreciate you.
That was great. Stand up for our president. He's right here from the north side. Do him like that. That was great. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. Cedric Frazier just walked in the room. State Representative Cedric Frazier. Can y'all give him a couple of minutes? He said, let's go. He said, give Cedric Frazier a hand. We're going to give him a couple of minutes. Come on. Cedric co-authored the bill to give us our right back. Can you give him a better round of applause than that?
Thank you. I will just take a couple of minutes, I promise, because I got to get back. We're in the middle of a campaign. We are part-time legislators. We're also fathers, so I got to go pick my daughter from basketball practice after this, so I will be quick. Senator Champion covered much of what I would have said if I was standing up here. And Brother Price, I just want to thank you for bringing us together. Oh, I thought your wife was in here, Miss Senator. No, okay. Also, thank you both for bringing us together. This is one of the most important elections, and I know we hear that all the time. But it's very special to me and important to me for the reason you all are in this room right here. There are people where this is the first moment they're going to get a chance to exercise their voice in this democracy in their life. And that's why it's so important to me. I was just talking to a reporter today, and she asked me, she said, you know, you often seem to talk about this bill when you carried it. You centered around the folks that are impacted and they're going to have the opportunity to participate in democracy. And I say I centered around them because we would not have gotten this done if it wasn't for the folks that were impacted showing up for over 20 years to say why it is they wanted their voice back in democracy. They had been held accountable. They had paid their dues. They were back in the community doing all the things that society says we want folks to do when they're back in the community. But we were putting constraints on them. We were telling them, you can pay your taxes. You can work a job. You can work yourself to the bone. Come home tired at the end of the week, barely having energy to play with your kids or tend to your family members. But you don't have an opportunity to speak in this democracy. And we knew it wasn't fair. We knew it wasn't right. We knew that certain folks that didn't want them to have that opportunity to speak in a democracy, they wanted it for a reason. Brother Keith Ellison always says, hey, if voting wasn't important, they wouldn't try so hard to take it away from you. That is a fact of life. That is a reality. So I'm only here to say, congratulate you all for the work that you've done to get us to this point so that you can have your voice back in this democracy. And you should give yourself a hand for that. Right? So, you have a chance to have your voice heard. You have a chance to make history. And Brother Shane said, I can't talk about candidates. So all I'll say is, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, but I hope she wins. Thank you.
He's crazy. Give Cedric a hand. So, hey, Poussin, I see you, man. Thank you for making it. Look, I'm not going to keep you. I can feel you getting a little bit restless. I need you to just stay with me for a little bit longer. Sweetheart, I need your help real quick. I'm going to bring our pop guys who have done, and say it again, and yeah, honey, where are you? Can you come? Eliza Darris, we've already honored him for becoming above and beyond. Would you grab the award when I call the name, sweetheart? But Mr. Eric Washington, give him a hand. Eric came home from Lino Lakes. Come on, son. He came home from Lino Lakes as a pop guy, but took the learning into the federal system. Now he's created a federal program called the Kingsman, and he is doing his thing above and beyond. Stay right there, Eric Washington. I want to introduce you to my barber and my brother, like a son, is Chris Sherman. Chris Sherman, come on up. He's above and beyond. Chris, and don't he look sharp? Chris came home. Don't he look sharp? Y'all give Chris a hand. Chris came home, decided he wanted to open up a barbershop, but wanted it to be a mobile barbershop. And so Chris has, after some months of toiling, he's opened up a mobile barbershop, and Chris can drive right up to your place and cut your hair. He's operating, and Chris, I love you, and I'm so proud of you. And his lovely wife, Anu, is here too. Give Anu a hand. Raise your hand. Oh, and I'm sorry, and Tammy Washington, his lovely wife is here too. Tammy, raise your hand. Tammy is working with the Female Federal Reentry Program. Mr. Richard McLemore, I didn't see Richard come in, but Richard has created a housing project. Richard did 18 years. I was with him for about 12 of them. And then all the time that he's been home, Richard has created a housing program that's contracted by the city of St. Paul. Give Richard McLemore a round of applause. My son, Ananiah Israel, is a bondsman. Hey, brother, is a bail bondsman. Say bail bondsman. Ananiah, where are you at? I know you're in. Come on up here. Hurry up. Give him a hand. He's operating above and, say it again, above. Yeah. And Ananiah came home, worked in a factory. And you know, I was training Ananiah to come and work for me. And actually all of these guys, I want them to come and work for me, Spike, but I couldn't raise enough money, you know, to pay them. So I had to farm them out to some other people, and then they're banging when what they're doing, and I'm grateful for it. And I got to go above and beyond. And I don't got them all, but I got a few of them. But Mr. Antonio Williams has created something called Tone Up. Antonio's been charged with helping to elect many officials. Give Antonio a big hand because he has gone above Say above and beyond. Y'all stand right there. This is my son, Montez Franco. Montez is working after his time in Lino Lakes. He is now working in the healthcare system. He's working on a political career. He's going to be an elected official. He's operating above and beyond. I want to introduce you to Lee Vu, the guru, who I had in Rush City with me for about 12 years. And then I had him over in Furboat for another 2 or 3 years. Lee Vu was making boxes. I said, boy, come out of there. Now he is over at the Asian American Partnership, mentoring young Asian boys. Give him a better hand than that. That's the guru. Zeke Caligori is not here on this moment, but Zeke is a lifer who is doing some of the most amazing things that there are around the country. Zeke came out of the penitentiary smoking. He's now a professor at the University of Minnesota, teaching classes over at the university. Zeke Caligori, give him a big hand. He's gone above and beyond. 3 of our young men have completed all their parole. They no longer have any assignments, and I want you to give a big hand to Tim Robinson. Tim, come on up. Tim, come on over here. Tim, I had him about 6 or 7 years in Furboat and 2 or 3 years in Lino, and I had him ever since he's been home, and the man is totally off parole. Give Tim Robinson a big round of applause. He was trying to make it home while his mama was still hanging on, and he made it back, and he's able to love on her and give her some love. Give Tim another hand. Steve Jennings. Steve living in Rochester, Minnesota. Here he is all the way from Rochester. Give Steve a big old hand. Steve I had in the Lino Lakes. Did you get your award? Steve Jennings is doing things down in Rochester, and he's starting a chapter of POP in Rochester. We're charging him with starting that chapter because he's going above, say above, and beyond. We also were given another award, and I'm going to share. We elected to award the Commissioner of Corrections, Paul Snell, an award. You know, it's hard to be the commissioner. Somebody always mad at you. But one of the things that Snell has done in the midst of COVID and all the other things is that he's continued to let lifers come home. Somebody here knows what I'm talking about. You ain't making enough noise for me. No. I said he's continued to let lifers come home after they've done their time. And so I asked my son, Will, if he would give Paul the award, because right here in this location on last year, Paul gave Will, as a lifer, his commutation. Give Willie Lloyd a big hand. I want you to say a few things about him, Will. Say a few things about him.
All right. Yeah, so like Pop said, a year ago, right, we had a function here. And he walked up to me and he said, you know, I wanted to tell you in person that you're done, right? At first, I was like, what do you mean I'm done, right? But then he said, you know, I'm commuting you, right? Your parole is finished. You know, so when Pop asked me to present or to take this award on his behalf, I was honored to do so because I realized in commuting me, he opened up the door to commute many others. So I want to thank him for that.
Thank you so much. And he actually sent some words over by Wayne, and Wayne is up in the booth right now. But listen, but listen at this. Wayne, do you have the words that he sent? Okay, that's fine. Listen to this. All of these pop guys, I met them all inside the Minnesota State Correctional Facility. If I touched you, he touched me. And I needed you to meet him face to face, and I needed you to walk up on him man to man and let him know that you understand who he is and what he means to me, and what if I mean anything to you, that this is the succession of power and strength that is going on in this community. We have operated above and beyond. You were slow. I'm talking about above and beyond. I want you to give my sons a big round of applause. Make them feel welcome for the award that they have received. Thank each and every one. Give them a bigger round of applause than that. They are living above and beyond. You ought to be standing up for these guys right here who are living above and beyond. Step over here and take this photograph. Don't nobody leave because we got Spike coming next. Say above. Above. And beyond. And beyond. Thank you so much, y'all. Give him another hand. Give him a lot of better hand than that. Say, I'm valuable. I'm lovable. I'm powerful. And I'm important. And don't you forget it. I want you to just hang with me a few more minutes. We're going to have you out of here in a second. Excuse me. Get settled down, please. I want you to give a few minutes to my mentor here and let him explain in his own words from his heart the way he has for 50 years. That's above, beyond. Above and beyond. Give Spike Moss an award, a hand clap for being above and beyond. Thank you, brother. Yes, sir.
Let me first say I'm very proud of Shane. I went in and out of them prisons for 39 years, 3 prisons a week. In this state alone, I did federal penitentiary at Sandstone and Rochester when they called me, and I did federal and state across this country. And what you're saying, Shane, is the very reason I did it. These are human beings. They deserve to be saved and not caged their whole life like animals. And that's why I took my car, my money, my time, and made those trips, because they are worthwhile saving. So I can't thank you enough for picking that flag up and running with it. When you talk about why is this election so important, Shane started out by talking about the trip to Milwaukee. In Milwaukee, because of politics, they didn't have fair housing. The largest black population close to Minnesota did not have fair housing. They called down to Martin Luther King in Atlanta to come and lead their marches because the black preachers wouldn't lead the marches. They then went to an Italian priest named Father Guthrie. Father Guthrie said, I'll lead them, but he didn't know how. So when he called the kingdom, they said, we are in Alabama, but if you call Spike Moss in Minnesota, he'll come and show you how to do that. That's when I engaged him. He just didn't know. He just didn't know. But let me say this about the importance of voting. You got to have your ears open, your eyes open, so you understand the racism involved in this. News is talking about middle class, the border. Nobody's talking about racism and hate. It's all at the root of what we're getting ready to face. Trump is like, what was that, 2 weeks ago when he said on national TV, the brown people, meaning Latinos, will poison white blood. He said the African will poison white blood. That's Hitler talk. When you get to the Aryan race, white skin, blonde hair, blue eyes is the only one accepted. When you look at what we're about to lose, affirmative action gave us a hand up. What did they do last month? They shot it down. This is only the beginning. What are the things they're looking at? They acknowledge they want Social Security gone in 2035. Anybody here got a job? Raise your hand. How in the heck are you paying Social Security when they already announced they're going to end it? So they're taking your money to do what? A foreign war or what? But you don't have any say-so unless we have some of those seats where they make those decisions. That wall down there, let me make myself clear, and I mean this to African Americans because we know the least about this. Those people called Latino are not Latino. It was the Spaniards that came to this country. They built a colony on the East Coast and the West Coast, and they invaded this country. Those Native Americans were very small Native Americans. Dark skin, woolly hair, wavy hair, curly hair. They were under Chief Montezuma. They were made to be slaves. They made slaves from Denver all the way to LA. If you look at LA, all of that is Spaniard speaking because that was their biggest colony. It's not Los Angeles, San Francisco, Santiago, Santa Monica. They enslaved them before they enslaved us. They carried them all down through what's called Texas today, all the way down where they built a city that they named Mexico, and later changed the people's name to Mexican, did not allow them to speak any of their Native American languages. They got their light skin color from the Spaniards who were vanilla, and they were only allowed to speak Spanish, and many of them don't know their history, but they're on their way back home. The original landlord is coming home, and we want to build a wall where they can't come back. When you see them brothers in the mix, that's because the Spaniards grabbed us and carried us on that journey all the way down through South America, where a lot of them got away in the jungle, but then they carried us over in those islands. Every island speaks what? Spanish. So you're talking about the true landlord should be an alien and shouldn't come across the border on his way back home. You can take 2 pigeons, Shane, put them in a box with a brain the size of a BB. We can take them from New York to LA. They will fly all the way back to New York. You telling me a man and woman with a full-blown, grown human being brain would never, ever come back home? So that's not our battle. Our battle is to say, come on home. Our battle is not to get mixed, they're taking our jobs. We'll get a job first. They're taking our jobs. We got to understand that's not our battle to come at them like that. It's our battle to say, welcome. Welcome back home in your own motherland. Then you look at, it's not just Social Security. Why are you saying things like this? You want to get rid of general assistance, welfare, rent assistance. Why are you talking like that? Why did you just say recently, hospitals, we will no longer have prenatal care? Why would you say that? That you're in labor about to drop the baby and they have no prenatal care at the hospital where you showed up? Why would you say you're going to get rid of the mental health clinic attached to the hospitals? Because the mental health people, when they have a breakdown, you only got a few minutes to get this straight. You're going to move the unit out. And then why would you say this one, black people? You can relate to this one. We want to get rid of all emergency units in the hospitals. Who does that hit? This is some vicious stuff that you have to understand that they will do. Now this one hits all of y'all. And Shane, if the wrong person gets in, the advantage you got to vote, they can take back the way they took back affirmative action. Minnesota, you're the #1 state that's got to wake up. #1. Because you're in the top 5 worst states towards African Americans in the entire country. It's just you, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Michigan, and Iowa. Minnesota, white people have 74 to 76% of all the mortgages. You don't have half of 1%. From the top of the state to the bottom, they have 99% of all the businesses. You don't have half of 1%. Mississippi is the brokest, backward state in the whole country. They graduate more black kids a year than we do. They graduate more black kids in college than we do. They have more black land than we do. They have more black homes than we do. They have more black businesses than we do. So you have to stay in the fight and vote because you got more to lose. You were listed 5 years ago, Shane. The worst state towards banking towards African Americans in the entire country was Minnesota. No state had banks that redlined as much as Minnesota. So you wake up here long after the election and look at the things you need to change. Because maybe one day For shoplifting, you'll get 10 years if you got the wrong people in office. This is a serious election. When they say they could roll us back 40 years, y'all don't want nothing to do with that 40 years. Back when we was doing Jim Crow, back when we run to the hospital, it was whites only. Go to get a hotel room, whites only. Want to sit down in a restaurant, whites only. Go to vote, they put a big giant jar on the table with beans in it. Tell me how many beans is in there, and then you can vote. Or you got the Klan in front of the front door threatening to hurt you if you try to go in and vote. They take you back that far if you don't get up. And get out of this mess about Pamela versus him. To be clear, some of you will remember, we have never had an election where we didn't have to choose the lesser of two evils. We have never. And if you don't understand it, I'm going to kill you, but I'm going to let you choose the gun or the knife. And you don't want to die. This is how we have to deal. So we have to take the lesser of two evils, and then we got to speak directly to our sister that she understands. It ain't just about the middle class. They got their 2 cars and a house in the suburb. They got a good living. It's about the everyday working person that you want to live under minimum wage, 2024, and you want to give them $15, which would have been good in 1970s, when the rent was $80 and $150 for a single bedroom. A cheap one now is $1,000, $1,500, $2,000. You need 30 to 35 coming in the door. They won't know until we raise our voice. We don't want you to minimize our potential. We don't want you to keep us in poverty. We want to go up like everyone else. Our boys wouldn't be in prison in the numbers they're in if their daddies would have had an equal opportunity to give you a good life. Be clear. We must vote and tell everyone you know in your family, regardless of who this, you do not want to go backwards. We can't afford. Understand and stand together, stand with everybody that's going to get hit. And it will mostly be people of color. They're talking about taking back their country. And y'all know it's a stolen country. You ain't taking back nothing. Thief, when you steal something, it's stolen. It ain't yours. You can call it yours all you want. But the real landlord's on his way back. We need to get close to the real landlord when he get home. You understand what I'm saying? Please get up. Every relative you got, get busy for our own future.
Give Spike some love. That's Harry Spike Moss there. And you know, Spike been on fire like that since I met him. I met him in 1966. And let me just tell you this. We had an organization at that time, Chris Sherman, called The Way Opportunity Unlimited Incorporated. And we used to, every Friday night, we had a dance. Remember that? And you know, y'all don't dance like we did. I mean, everybody, it was all about dancing, seeing who could dance. Say dance. Yeah. And you know, there was a band called Junior Walker and the All-Stars. Did you ever hear them? I can't hear nobody. And then Junior Walker said this. I said, shotgun, shoot him. Oh, wait a minute, somebody over here. Y'all don't remember that. But we do need a little music before we go. And we have a pop band, and these are some of our men who have joined together to keep our little spirit going. In each prison that I was in, Spike, we had a band in each one of the prisons, so that when we had graduation, you know, we could play some music to each other. Would the pop band please come forward? Daniel Drill Millen right here. Ellis Simmons right here. Dr. Darrell Webb. Give them a better hand than that. They going above. Say above. Say beyond. You guys gonna take us home.
Is this on? I'm Dan. I'm a pop guy. We're gonna sing. Pop guys, pop women. We know that the good life begins with a good word. So that's what we're gonna do right now. We're gonna close this out with a good word. A song about restoration. give each other a round of applause. Let's celebrate.
Seems like all I could see was the struggle, haunted by ghosts that lived in my past, bound up in shackles of all of my failures, wondering how long is this gonna last. Then you look at this prisoner and say to me, son, stop fighting a fight, it's already been won. I am redeemed, you set me free. So I'll shake off these heavy chains, wipe away every stain. I'm not who I used to be, 'cause I am redeemed. Oh, I'm redeemed. All my life I have been called unworthy, named by the voice of my shame and regret. But when I hear you whisper, child, lift up your head, I remember, oh God, you're not done with me yet. 'Cause I am redeemed, you set me free. So I'll shake off these heavy chains, wipe away every stain. I'm not who I used to be, because I don't have to be the old man inside of me, 'cause his day is long dead and gone. Because I've got a new name, a new life, I'm not the same, and a hope that will carry me home. 'Cause I am redeemed, you set me free. So I'll shake off these heavy chains, wipe away every stain, 'cause I'm not who I used to be. Said I am redeemed, 'cause you set me free. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'll shake off these heavy chains, wipe away every stain, 'cause I'm not who I used to be. Oh God, I'm not who I used to be. Jesus said I'm not who I used to be, 'cause I am redeemed.
Father, we're just going to thank you right now for the presence of the Holy Ghost that's in this place, and everybody was here. Pray a Holy Ghost blessing over them. That we are above and beyond. That we are above and not beneath. That we are the head. And we proclaim that we are his, and through him we can accomplish all things. Somebody say all things. All things are working for are working for my good. It's intentional. It's intentional. All things are working for my good. It's intentional. It's intentional. Yeah, 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 yeah. All things are working for my good. Working for my good. Woo! Hallelujah. Woo! Yes, sir.
Want you to sing these songs of freedom, 'cause all I ever redemption song. Freedom. Songs of freedom. Redemption.